Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Armine Afeyan. I lead the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative on behalf of my team and our partners at OPC. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're here, you know the problems, compounding and overlapping crises around the world, traditional funders stepping back or stepping out altogether, and the very humanitarians who are working to solve the problems that arise as a result of those two forces in greater peril than ever before. If you're here, you're also part of the solution. You're telling stories that help people turn toward when it might otherwise be easier to turn away. You're humanizing humanitarian work, putting a face to a place and a name to a cause. Your work, this work, offers an antidote to the apathy that otherwise threatens to override our shared humanity. So thank you truly for all you do. If you're here, and I do mean those who are also joining us online, hello out in the world, you may well, like many of us at Aurora, do this work because of those who came before you, and crucially because of those who will come after you. So in that spirit, I'm going to hand over to someone who came right before me, Noubar Afeyan, our co-founder.
Thank you, Armine, and good morning to all of you. I'm Noubar Afeyan, as Armine mentioned. I'm co-founder and chairman of the board of Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, and we're here to announce the finalists for the Aurora 2025 prize. They are all exceptional grassroots humanitarians who are risking their lives to help the lives of others. I write an annual letter every year as part of my work in biotechnology, and back in 2022 I wrote about the concept of polycrisis. Following the pandemic, at that time we seemed to be entering a period of spreading crises in many other domains, like the economy, supply chains, geopolitics, wars, domestic extremism, and more. If we were in a polycrisis then, I don't know what the word is for what we're experiencing now. But I do know that, as Armine said, the reporting you all do is in part an antidote to the feeling that polycrisis evokes. The feeling that so much is happening, you can't focus on what is good and what to make out of any of it. When you tell the stories of people who are struggling and suffering around the world, you make them real to your audience instead of just an abstract crisis. So we want to thank you for that and add several additional stories to your repertoire today going forward. Aurora grew out of a humanitarian crisis of itself. My co-founders and I are all descendants from survivors of the Armenian genocide, and we launched this new organization 10 years ago with the goal of turning the gratitude we feel to those who helped our ancestors into action, helping people today. This is why Aurora's motto is gratitude in action. We all have our own stories about the heroes who helped our families. In my case, my grandfather escaped a death march in the desert in Turkey thanks only to 2 German soldiers who unexpectedly pulled him and his brother off the last station of a train where they were meant to be marched to their death, and saving their lives and pretty directly enabling mine. Aurora is built to recognize and support people who are doing that exact kind of work today, who see the humanity in people who are at risk or suffering and do whatever it takes to help them, even if it means putting their lives in danger. Now, as you all know, and as I alluded to at the beginning, this is a difficult time for humanitarians. In a world that for most of my lifetime has celebrated and uplifted humanitarians, you might say that today it's instead the inhumanitarians who are on the march. These are the people who create crises, who disregard the value of human life, who try to trample on our common humanity. But it's not just inhumanitarianism that's the problem today, it's also pervasive indifference. The people and organizations that used to step up on the side of humanitarians are more and more stepping back. This means the rest of us have to do more with less. At Aurora, we believe the best way to do that is to do what we've been doing for the last 10 years. Directly funding local humanitarians who are working in their communities and know better than anyone else how to help their own neighbors. We believe this may be many times more efficient and, more importantly, more effective than funneling money only through big international organizations. Over our first decade, by letting our honorees themselves decide how $1 million in total prize per cycle should be spent, we've reached more than 3.5 million people across 63 countries and territories. And in each case, the decision was made by the local humanitarians using their own judgments. We've implemented more than 500 projects to help save lives and get people who are in crisis the basic humanitarian support they need, and the hope that comes with that support. This is a small drop in the big ocean of need that's out there, but what motivates us is the idea that somewhere our support might help someone else's grandparents survive their darkest moment. It might enable a life in a story like mine that couldn't have happened if not for a brief but impossibly consequential moment of shared humanity. We hope that by paying forward what was done to our ancestors, for our ancestors, we might inspire others to turn any gratitude they feel in their own into their own action, building a cycle that can reverberate down through the generations to come. Now I'm eager for all of you to hear about our finalists, so I'll end here and turn it over to Lord Ara Darzi, the chair of our selection committee for the Aurora Prize. Lord Darzi.
Friends, colleagues, partners in hope, thank you for joining us this morning. In a world grappling with shadows, we gather today to celebrate the light. Not a distant, abstract light, but the fierce, unwavering light of human courage. This past year, the shadows have deepened. We've seen conflicts escalate and watched as millions were forced to flee their homes, searching for safety in a world often, sadly, looks away. And just when the need for compassion has become a deafening roar, the funding for life-saving aid has fallen to a whisper. The most vulnerable, the poor, the displaced, and the forgotten are paying the highest price. It's for them that Aurora exists. It is for them that our work is not just important, but essential. This urgency echoed across the globe in our latest call for nomination. We received an incredible 868 submissions, leading to 511 candidates for 104 countries. Each one represents a story of someone who refused to stand by. Someone who chose action over apathy and risked everything so that others might live with dignity. To review these powerful stories, we relied on over 80 global experts in human rights and humanitarian aid. Their tireless work narrowed this vast field to a short list of 15 exceptional individuals. We owe them our deepest gratitude. From there, the selection committee, which I'm humbled to chair, faced a profound challenge. How do you choose from a group of heroes? Each candidate's story is a testament to the extraordinary power of human spirit. Their courage reminds us that compassion knows no borders. Yesterday, our 10-person committee met to make our final and very difficult decision. In few moments, my dear colleague, Dame Louise Richardson, will announce the finalist for the 2025 Aurora Prize. But before she does, let us honor every single person nominated this year. They are the architects of a better world, and their selflessness inspire us all to do more and to do better. I must also thank Noubar Afeyan and the other co-founders who are not with us for their vision, which has ignited this movement. And to our supporters, thank you for ensuring that these beacons of hope are seen, celebrated, and sustained. Together, we are turning as Noubar said, gratitude into action. And now it's my great honor to pass the floor to Louise to reveal the 2025 Aurora Prize finalist. Louise.
Thank you, Ara, for your leadership of the selection committee and indeed for your friendship. Good morning, everyone. It is an extraordinary privilege to be in a position to announce the 4 finalists for the 2025 Aurora Prize. I'm going to read all 4 in alphabetical order. I know we promised 3, but the selection committee had such a difficult time with 15 fully qualified candidates that we eventually alighted on 4. So the first finalist is Sally Becker from the United Kingdom. Sally has had an extraordinary career in humanitarian work. She evacuated hundreds of children from besieged areas during conflicts in Bosnia and Kosovo and founded organizations providing emergency pediatric care. Ms. Becker later expanded her work to Iraq, Ukraine, and Gaza, launching a telemedicine program that links local clinicians to a global pediatric network. Let's hear a round of applause for Sally. Our second finalist is Dr. Jamal Eltaeb of Sudan. Dr. Eltaeb is a medical doctor who, throughout Sudan's devastating civil war, has kept Al Neo Hospital in Omdurman functioning as one of the last referral hospitals in Greater Khartoum. Dr. Eltaeb's leadership has kept the hospital running despite repeated bombardments, infrastructure collapse, and extreme shortages of critical resources, saving hundreds of lives in the process. The third finalist for the Aurora Prize is Dr. Zouhair Lahna of Morocco, an obstetrician gynecologist who has worked in conflict zones and disaster areas for over 2 decades, delivering care, training local staff, and mobilizing support. Dr. Lahna has served in Afghanistan, the DRC, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Uganda, and most recently Gaza, where he completed repeated rotations after the war began in October 2023. And our fourth finalist is Dr. Jill Seaman of the United States. Dr. Seaman is a physician who co-founded South Sudan Medical Relief, an organization which has for more than 3 decades provided critical care in the isolated and conflict-affected South Sudanese town of Al-Fanga. Working in one of the poorest and most war-torn countries, Dr. Seaman and her team treat 400,000 patients annually. These 4 humanitarians represent the very best of humanity, and we are thrilled to welcome them into the Aurora family. As they join us now from their respective locations, Dr. Eltaeb is going to join us by audio from Sudan, and we're hoping all the others will be able to join us via video. Sally, are you there? Allow me to congratulate you and invite you to say a few words.
I am, and thank you so much. It's such an honor to be chosen as a finalist for this prestigious award.
Anything else you'd like to say to us?
Just that I was overwhelmed when I heard about it yesterday. It was amazing.
Well, we're all in awe of everything you have done. So let me turn now to Dr. Eltaeb, who we hope is joining us from Sudan via audio. Dr. Eltaeb, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Eltaeb. Congratulations on being named a finalist for the Aurora Prize 2025. Would you like to?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored.
Would you like to say anything to the group of people here who are celebrating your nomination?
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Truly, I am deeply humbled and profoundly moved by this honor. It is an honor to be selected as a finalist for the 2025 Aurora Prize. In this war, I did not stay because I was fearless. I stayed because people were injured and needed someone to stand beside them. I am a doctor and a surgeon, and that was my duty. This recognition is not mine alone. It belongs to every soul who choose compassion over fear. From the depths of my heart, thank you. And may we all keep choosing humanity and hope, even in our darkest hours. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And we're now going to jump ahead to Dr. Jill Seaman, who is in her home state of Idaho. Congratulations, Dr. Seaman.
I'm still a teeny bit shocked and honored by this. As other people have mentioned, you know, it's all of us who make something happen, and it's all of our shared humanity that makes what we do possible. I don't think it's just one person, but I'm so honored that you all looked at what was happening in our country with all our people. And I'd just like to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and warmest congratulations. And we're now going to try again for Dr. Zouhair Lahna from Morocco. Dr. Lahna, are you there?
Unfortunately not, but perhaps we can bring him in for the Q&A. So why don't we proceed to the panel discussion?
Terrific. Well, with that, thank you for celebrating our finalists, and we're going to turn now to the panel discussion, and I hope the finalists will be able to participate. Thank you.
On behalf of the Overseas Press Club of America, it's an honor to be part of this program today. Our organization, the OPC, was founded in 1939, and we represent journalists who care deeply about the importance of global reporting and who do it with tremendous courage and against formidable odds. For the past 8 decades, we have sponsored awards annually that identify and pay tribute to the finest international reporting across various platforms, and among those are awards that are specifically for reporting on the human condition. So it's a particular pleasure to be here today with these remarkable people and members of the selection committee. Actually, I wanted to start with Dame Richardson and Lord Darzi just to talk a little bit about, you mentioned how difficult the decision was this year. So many qualified and worthy potential finalists. What was the starlight you were looking for? What was the kind of thing that all 4 of these finalists share that you felt was really important this year?
It's a difficult process every year, but particularly this year, and I think in many ways it reflects the humanitarian crises globally. I don't think I could remember sitting around a table seeing such a diverse crises across the globe with a significant impact on humanity. And so the nominations were much more diverse, much from different parts. We had I thought many had and we also wanted to capture that diversity because, you know, as the Middle East was a hot spot. Obviously, Africa was a hotspot, Asia was a hotspot, and the drivers for the drivers in each continent were very different. I think at the end of the day, we have probably the most distinguished panel you could ever have, as Noubar said in his, you know, people who've had a long-standing contribution to humanitarian causes, heads of states. And the 4 were selected on the back of consensus. I suspect each one of them could have been sitting up here today, but we had to choose actually 3, but we ended up with 4, which was the right decision. It reflects the 3 principles of Aurora, which we're all aware. That's really our guiding principles in selecting, from courage and the other important attributes, but also for us it's important that it's difficult to define, but people who put themselves at risk to save others. You know, that's something that you need to work through to really try to at least measure a way that you can, and it was a very difficult decision. But I am, as the chair, very, very privileged to be amongst these exceptional people who make very difficult decisions.
Those must have been remarkable discussions.
Well, the only thing I'd add to that, really, just reiterating Ara's point about the three guiding principles of courage, commitment, and impact. So that guided our decision making somewhat. But even there, you're making it's somewhat invidious, really, to be trying to assert that any one of these people is more worthy than others when you realize reading about any one of them causes you, or certainly causes me, really to question what one does in one's own life when you see how people have put their lives at risk. So we're weighing lots of different things. Both some of the people were individuals who had put their life individually at risk time and time again. Others were working through organizations. Others had formed organizations to amplify their work. So there are lots of different competing ethical judgments, and you can only make it ultimately by acknowledging that all 15 are more than qualified, and but that the four people we've chosen are just extraordinary human beings and inspiring human beings, and we hope that as people learn more about them, they'll be as inspired by them as we have been.
I think we're struck by that the selection includes humanitarians who are doing work not necessarily in the spotlight, in the hotspots, the places we read about every day. Is that a conscious decision on the part of the committee to try to look everywhere, maybe look places that don't get a lot of coverage?
I don't think so, actually. And indeed, what's striking about several of these, in fact, 3 of the 4, is that they have worked in many, many countries, including some contemporary hotspots. I mean, one factor that that weighed on me was some of the hotspots have only been hotspots for a couple of years, and we are by and large looking for people with long-term impact, so people who have been working in the field for years. So the people who are currently working in hotspots have also worked in other areas. But I don't think it was a conscious decision to downplay any given crisis.
And remember, most of the nominations are made from the grassroots humanitarians out there, people who are really involved at these challenging areas. And we're very, very fortunate to capture that, thanks to Aurora and the administrative side of, and those who put these names up to us. And then takes a long time to validate a lot of what is said as well. That's another critical bit about it. But as Mary said, Louise said, it's a very it's a very diverse pool. I think that is a good thing.
You spoke about the diversity and the interesting themes that kind of came across from all the nominees this year. In the arc of these awards that are 10 years old now, what kind of themes, could you reflect a little bit on the themes and the changes in humanitarian work and the type of people who do it, the type of work that is being done today versus just perhaps a few years ago? I assume it has changed some.
Well, I'm going to allow Ara to take that one because I'm relatively new to the Aurora Prize, having only joined the committee last year, succeeding my predecessor, the co-founder, the late great Vartan Grigorian. I wish it were the case that over the past 10 years we had a declining need for humanitarians, but quite the reverse has happened. But I think Ara could speak more knowledgeably to the trends over 10 years.
Yeah.
I think the numbers put forward have increased. I'm not entirely sure that the we've been nominated more people from certain hospitals. There's always a degree of bias if we are in 2025 and there is something very hot out there. Like, for example, we did have at least 3 from the Middle East, or 4. If you go back 3 or 4 years, we honored someone who sadly is no longer with us, from Myanmar, where there was a significant conflict around that time. It was a very, very brave person there who we, so I think for us as the independent panel, it is quite important that we do not get focused on what's the latest tragic set of news on the media, and that may in many ways blur your selection or bring in a selection bias, which we're always very anxious not to be. But at the end of the day, I think the 4 actually represents a very interesting, especially the 2 of them, as Dame Louise said, they're people who worked in different areas and different continents, and we haven't seen many of those in the past, and that's another unique something that we were very pleased to see, that these people have risked themselves in different parts of the world to achieve the same goal.
I wonder, the committee looks so closely, investigates so closely, so many humanitarians. Do you find, what lessons can you draw for people who want to do this kind of work, who are committed to doing humanitarian work, and often it's selfless, outside of the headlines, I realize. What qualities do you see that so many of these folks share?
Well, they have extraordinary personal courage and a capacity to empathize and compassion with others, as well as skill in their, several are in the medical profession. And I think part of the problem, looking at the extraordinary work they do, you might be inclined to feel, any young person considering a future in this field might think, I couldn't possibly live up to the extraordinary standards of these individuals. But they are, each and every one of them, remarkably humble about the work that they do. And I've got to believe, and I would love to hear from them about how rewarding they find this work. But it is truly inspirational.
And I'd just like to add in there as well, it's my job, my team's job, to make this process extra challenging for the selection committee. So that's where we come in. We try to collect as many incredible stories with depth in different regions. And the depth piece is important. As Ara alluded to, several of the finalists this year work in multiple contexts over a long period of time. The thing that they all have in common is that they are very close, they are proximate to the challenges. And it's those who are on the ground, who work in and with and are of communities truly, in whatever context they are, who are the best equipped to understand the situation, to decide how capital gets allocated. And so I would also say that as we're sourcing these nominations, as we're challenging the selection committee to do their process, that is something that we see over the years Aurora Humanitarians have had in common.
Dame Richardson, any thoughts on the lessons beyond? Dame Richardson.
Oh,
any thoughts on the lessons beyond what Lord Darzi and Armine were saying?
The lessons are, we need, the world needs fewer of these, we need a world in which there is less need for these extraordinary human beings. And with each passing day, sadly, the reverse seems to be the case.
I would like to go to the finalists on the screen here and on audio. Sally Becker, maybe I could start with you. Could you talk a little bit about the Global Pediatric Network, the work you do, and the biggest challenges you're currently facing?
I think the biggest challenges were when I was working alone at the beginning, back in 1993, because I'd never been in a war zone before, and I suddenly was faced with being shot at and shelled, and also meeting the children for the first time in East Mostar Hospital, because I'd never seen anything like it. There was a little girl, 10 years old, called Selma, and she decided they'd been trapped for 3 months in this besieged area, 60,000 people. And she decided to go outside with her little brother into the sunshine. And so they sneaked out, and all of a sudden, a rocket-propelled grenade landed close by. And they were rushed to the hospital, and there was only enough anesthetic for one child. And because Selma felt responsible for what had happened to her little brother, she insisted he have it, and her arm was removed without anesthetic. And I saw this child, and she saw my face as I was being told the story. And she looked at me and said, "It's fine, I'm fine." And I felt so humble and thought of all the times I've moaned about a headache or a tummy ache. And it was at that moment that I knew I had to continue this work. The app was created much later. And of course, it's much easier for me because we work remotely. Basically, the app enables doctors in areas of conflict like Gaza, Afghanistan, Iraq. It helps them to connect with pediatric specialists around the world who can advise them on how to save or how to help give treatment to children in areas where pediatric expertise is limited. I do still go to these awful places, but a lot of my work now is done remotely, so it is a lot easier.
Thank you. Dr. Jill Seaman, could you talk a little bit? You've been 3 decades in South Sudan, working there through a lot of turmoil, a lot of difficulty. What is your biggest challenge today?
Actually, today the biggest challenge is trying to figure out with everybody there what is the best way forward, because this year we had so many crises that we have to figure out which way we should be moving. Of course, on the ground, you're just seeing people that are sick, sometimes wounded, and lots of times without food. And then you respond just to that particular issue at that particular time. But overall, we're really in flux trying to figure out the best way forward. Where should our people go? Where can we get food? Those types of things. But I have to mention that I feel for Sally Becker's story, which is quite remarkable. And I think that it's something that I feel for myself. I did not go specifically to a war zone, although it was one. I actually didn't realize it when I first went. And what happens is you're in a situation like I was, where 50% of the population was dead because of a treatable disease. And you saw these severely malnourished people who'd lost 8 to 10 of their relatives, every single one of them, they'd already died. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's not supposed to be happening. And so the response to something like that is you are already connected with people. It's not that you searched out a place where you might be bombed or held at gunpoint. You happen to be in a place where you had to respond. And I think that might be the underlying theme of what happens to lots of people. You're there and then you respond, and you weren't trying to find a war zone or a famine or anything like that. You were trying to see what you could do with your shared humanity. And I think that certainly speaks for lots of us.
Ms. Becker, could you talk a little bit about what keeps you going? Do you ever despair that there's not enough attention paid to the kind of work that you all are doing? And how do you motivate? How do you keep your focus and keep your passion?
I think I got desperate many times. Many times I've thought about stopping because it was so hard coming up against all kinds of individuals and organizations and governments, and the intransigence of these organizations, and people who just thought about the bureaucracy and the red tape and didn't think about the actual people, the children who were suffering and in desperate need of help that needed to be done immediately, not in 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 months. And that was the biggest challenge for me, was trying to understand why it is that people put politics before the lives of these innocent people, these innocent children. But I think what kept me going was children like Selma. When you see a child so badly injured and close to death, and then later you see that child, well, I saw Selma a few years later. She wrote to me, I suddenly saw this sentence on my computer appeared. It said, "Hi, Sally, it's Selma," and she wanted me to come to her wedding in New York. And honestly, when I saw this young woman coming down the aisle, she just looked so beautiful, and it just made me realize what I'd done. And that's all I have to do, is think of children like that, and I'll carry on forever.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Seaman, same question to you. Are there times when you have despaired, and how do you keep yourself motivated and energized?
Well, of course there are times when I have despair. I have no idea which direction we're exactly heading right now, for instance, but I'm like in the field a lot. It's not like there's anything, if I don't feel happy, I just have to go talk to people who have been our team, who work with us, that walk through, you know, the people that are there. In fact, I wouldn't have much way to change it anyway, because there's not really much of a way to get out very quickly. So, but you know, our group where I work right now, it's basically a community-based organization, and so we try to solve problems together, and people are always reminding me of a different way to look at things. And for some reason, the people in the community where I am still seem very hopeful, so that gives me a lot of hope.
Thank you. I want to open it up for a few minutes of questions. Before I do, I should mention that Dr. Eltaeb and Dr. Lahna have dropped off because of technical difficulties, so we only have Dr. Seaman and Sally Becker. Questions from the audience here? Yes.
Thank you. Jamal Eltaeb from the New Humanitarian. I had the luxury also of being one of the experts who were consulted on the profiles that you've had. I want to ask you a couple of questions. One of them is you said it is important as independent panel not to follow what's the latest on the media and avoid selection bias. I mean, I understand it in abstract, but given that the Aurora came from a genocide and we're living through another one, is it even logical to not follow what's happening in the sense of there is a genocide that is happening now, and that warrants visibility as well? If we follow what was said about those who will create the opportunity for, the saving of a person who will be someone's grandfather, those are probably there, among others. The other thing is, I mean, you've done an amazing selection. It's the finalists are incredible, but question is, 3 of them are not working in the communities they serve, like not from the communities, they're outsiders. So they are in that space between local organizations and international organizations with the privileges that come with being an outsider with an organization or with. How did that feature, like the people being actually from the communities they have worked in, given that is only one, Dr. Tayyib is the one there?
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let me start by the first question. I think the panel were obviously extremely anxious, not anxious, but more in regard of what's happening around the world, but the role of the committee is to select from a pool of candidates that have been put forward. And within that pool, there are a number, including from some who are the top 4, who've made contributions to the current conflict in the Middle East. And so that's always, obviously, the balancing of what's happening today versus what's happened around the world is a very important part of this. And each member of the panel have their own independent vote. And thanks for acknowledging that the selection of the 4 were great and you approve of, and a number of them have made contributions in different parts of the world. That's the other very different, unique, I've been chairing this for a number of years, but you rarely see. And that's the added advantage to your second question. They are not local. These, at least 4 or 5 of them, had a significant expertise in landing in different continents around the world and making a contribution. At the end of the day, the challenge, the humanitarian challenge, is more or less the same with different severity, but the response to that is probably the same. Dame Louise, do you have anything to, yeah?
No, I would agree with that. And on the point about some people, or 3 of the 4, not being from the region, I think that played out that way this year, but in prior years played out very differently. I think most of our winners have indeed been from the region, the conflict, in which the conflict they worked. And at some level, given that our criteria, if you like, are courage, compassion, and impact, those who are from outside the region, it takes an extra degree of courage, if you like, to put themselves in harm's way. And there's no doubt that Dr. Seaman and Sally have indeed been in harm's way. Sally, I know, was imprisoned and on hunger strike imprisoned at one point. So the fact that people are from outside the region, I think, should not in any way cause us to minimize or downplay their contribution. I think, as Ara said, we're looking at individuals here, and sometimes they're from outside the region, sometimes they're from within the conflict zone.
And since you mentioned our founding at the turn of the 20th century and the Armenian genocide, I'll just add that was a blended response as well. You had many humanitarians emerging from communities that did not agree with the government's decision to persecute Armenians, Assyrians, Greeks, and others. And then you had many remarkable missionaries, humanitarians coming in from other places, including from the Nordics in large degree, to address the difficulties that were happening. And so we really think that it takes all types. The piece I mentioned earlier around proximity to the challenges, getting close, really understanding what's happening on the ground, we feel that shines through with all of the finalists and indeed all Aurora Humanitarians.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Other questions in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations on an extraordinary group of finalists. I sit on the selection committee for the Talberg Foundation Fellowship, so I know how spoiled for choice you must be, unfortunately, and these are such outstanding grassroots leaders, but of course we're here for UN General Assembly Week that are operating at a very different level. How do you see the convergence, and what is the significance of announcing the finalists?
Sure. I can pick that up, yeah, because we decided to announce this week. In part, there's a logistical consideration. We will be announcing the laureate on November 6th on Ellis Island at the 10th anniversary of the Aurora Prize and the ceremony for awarding the prize. And so, of course, there's logistical consideration. But then, of course, as you say, it's the UN General Assembly Week. Many, many people are here, many people who want to make the world better. We may not all agree on how to do that, but what matters is that we show up and that we try. And so as part of that effort, and the UN's theme this year, Better Together, we wanted to put forward our Aurora Humanitarians, the latest installment in the chapters of Aurora Humanitarianism, and we felt this was the right place and time. So logistical and, of course, better together.
Good question. Other questions in the room? Oh, yes, ma'am.
My name is Rena and I am with Good Trouble Productions. I was just curious, all the good work that you've done in this critical moment of more and more need. People who aren't based in conflict zones, what's your advice to pick up the work? What can people around the world do who can't make it to a conflict zone and sort of support your mission and what you guys have been pushing for?
Well, one thing I would, one can't help observing that there has been a shift in public policy away from foreign aid towards defense, most dramatically in this country, but also in European countries, given the increased pressure for defense spending. It's coming at the cost of foreign aid. I think as citizens of all these countries, we should be making the case against such a policy move. It's more important than ever that we have stronger foreign aid. So as citizens of democratic countries, that's one thing I think we should do.
I agree. I think Louise was spot on. You can help in very different ways. There are many humanitarian agencies now thinking through different ways of delivering support without actually being there in person. And, you know, there are many conflict zones at the moment you cannot enter, as we both know, based through technology, based through support mechanisms. Certainly in the health side, there's been a lot of satellite links being brought into certain hotspots to provide health needs and requirements for that in certain parts of Africa, and I think even in Gaza, if I'm right. So there are opportunities that, technology-wise, that we can translate into real humanitarian activity. But at the end of the day, this is something you need to be near and understand, and most of what I've just described is very much de novo attempts in getting technology to help deliver humanitarian aid.
I might throw that question to Sally Becker and Jill Seaman. What do you think people can do to help humanitarians be more effective and grow the number of people who want to be humanitarians? Ms. Becker, why don't you start?
I think the most important thing is visibility, and that's the thing about Aurora. Children who are suffering as a result of war are often overlooked simply because they aren't in the media spotlight. And through Aurora, we get to share those stories of those who might otherwise remain unheard. The press tends to find one area of great interest, but it's at the expense of another area where maybe even more people are suffering and dying. I've found that always to be the way in 30-odd years that I've been doing this work.
Thank you. Dr. Seaman?
I can't agree more. I think visibility is certainly very helpful. People are always asking me, what can they do? And when you present what is happening in, for me, the particular area where I work and that particular country, as well as in North Sudan, everyone is worried and they've heard, but they really haven't heard. And so they want to know what is happening and what they can do. And so many people respond in this country where there is enough money to help the response. And I think to keep that up front is just such an important thing that Aurora is doing. I can't say more than that, because we do need people to be able to focus on that issue. I realize there's huge numbers of issues right now, so it is complicated, but when you show the picture of a young kid who can live because of what people are helping with, a family that gets back together and can start their life again, that really is meaningful to people. So thanks very much for what you guys are doing.
Thank you, and I think we'll have to end it there, and on a very good note. Thank you. Thank you to the finalists. Thank you to the selectors, and I hand the program over.
Wonderful. Well, I'll close us out by first thanking my fellow panelists, Lord Darzi and Dame Richardson, for your dedication to the process. Thank you, of course, to Scott Kraft and to Patricia Kranz of the Overseas Press Club. You've graciously co-hosted this briefing and you've partnered with us to really spotlight these stories. Thank you also to everyone who made this possible and our hosts at APCO, who you can see around the room if you're here with us. And then thank you to each and every single one of you for coming out to help us welcome the newest Aurora Humanitarians at a time when the world needs them greatly. We all, as you heard Sally Becker and Jill Seaman say, we all hope and persist so that humanity can win out, perhaps against the inhumanitarians that Noubar mentioned, especially in the toughest circumstances, which we will hear more about in the weeks to come as we share more of the Aurora finalist stories. History suggests we're going to continue to face these challenges, and the work that we all do together is aimed at lessening and softening the blows of those challenges and to amplify those who risk their own lives to save others as a part of that effort. In this way, we're highlighting the human in humanitarian, which is what Aurora is all about. But we're also, and I was delighted that the question at the end touched on this, we're bringing out the humanitarian in every human, so that in 50, 10 more years, 100 years from now, another group of dreamers and doers can sit together and reflect on a world that hopefully has more gratitude and action in it than not. I mentioned that we're going to announce the laureate on Ellis Island. I'd like to warmly welcome everyone here to join us. In the meantime, I'd like to invite you to join us if you have a few minutes to speak with us just outside if you're in the room with us, and if you're online, feel free to get in touch. We would really love to speak with you about the Aurora Humanitarians and what we're doing. So thank you all so much, and that is it.